Hey everybody, it's Mitchell Berry back again with another episode of Define Success, where we talk to people who have found success on their terms, whether that means making $1 million or staying at home with their kids. Let's dive right in.
Cool.
Well, Randy Wright, thanks for coming. You got a busy day?
Yeah, it's pretty busy.
That's good. Well, for everyone listening, I guess give the rundown of what you do day-to-day basis, what your job is. All that fun stuff.
I am the worship pastor of City Church in downtown Evansville. That usually sounds like the music guy or the singer on stage, but I pastor people through worship and through music and through art.
Yeah, that's cool. And because I've noticed that at art, because obviously we go to the same church, so I've noticed that even like some of the stuff y'all set up, like the website and whatnot, like you've got a lot more responsibilities than just what people would assume with your title.
Yeah.
Helping people through it, all that, but then a bunch of the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm sure it gets pretty hectic.
Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis. Now, how long has it been since you got here?
We're coming up on 2 years in April.
Okay.
So the end of April.
Okay. Yeah. Because it was like right after COVID.
Yeah, we were a year into COVID. We were about to take mask off. That's where
okay.
We were at,
so. That's how you remember it. Okay.
Yeah.
But you did this before, just at different churches.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And then remind me where you came from?
Yeah. So my wife and I are both from southern Mississippi.
Okay.
So as I was made aware, I have some O's that sound southern. We were at a church called Pine Lake Church, which is a mega church, multi-site campus.
Okay.
We were launching the 6th campus of their campuses.
Gosh.
And we were on their central team. And then COVID hit. We bought a house on March 3rd.
Okay.
Being real estate,
Yep.
Closed on March 3rd. My wife got on a bus to go to Mexico on a mission trip and came back, and COVID was here. And our campus essentially got shelved. And so we kind of prayed through what we wanted to do next, and over the course of about a year, and we found our way to Evansville, Indiana. Never been to Indiana until we interviewed for this position. So
that's crazy. Yeah, that was weird, especially like real estate wise. I remember because for us, we had so many rules, obviously, that we were trying to work through of what's appropriate because people still needed to move, right? Like imagine if your situation was just pushed back or forward or whatever, like you still had to get the house, so we couldn't stop. But we had to some extent. So there was, I think, 2 weeks where everything real estate-wise just shut down. And then we adapted to the, like, virtual masks, this, that, whatever, which it was still very strange for us.
Yeah, we had an interesting situation with that house. We bought a brand new build. We closed on the brand new build, or we signed our contract October of 2019. And the build was supposed to be done December of 19, but there was a historic rainfall in Mississippi and they couldn't put our front lawn down from January, February, and March. And so they finally were able to throw the lawn down, and they're like, the lawn has been secured, the lawn has been check marked as like you can live in this house. It's deemed livable.
Yeah.
And so if the rain had lasted about a week longer, we probably don't ever close on that house, because it did become a thing of like closings went from 30 days to like 60, 90 days down there as things were just chaotic. I forget about that.
But how long were you in that house before you
sold it?
We were
in it for 13 months, and we still turned a profit.
That's ridiculous. Which the market, I mean, if you closed right before COVID, the market just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
But that's wild. Especially on a
And
new
then we
build.
bought a house here in 2021, and then the market boomed again.
Yeah.
So we've been really lucky.
Yeah, that's cool.
With houses.
So now so the church that you were there, Pine Lake?
Pine Lake.
So how big, what was the attendance like across all the campuses or on the one that you were just at?
Yeah. So I think the Easter attendance our final year there before COVID was 24,000 people across 5 campuses. Gosh. So,
and then so now ours is what on a similar Sunday between two services?
Easter last year was 850. We're running about 560 right now a week.
Okay, so how's it been transitioning from like a massive campus and having all these people to then what probably feels like a small church, but which is not obviously in our area, but it feels like that, I'm sure to you.
I think the definition of a mega church in America is over 500 people, so we would qualify for that. Yeah, I think.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's certain things you start looking at growth patterns, 250, 500, 1,000. They start to have their own hurdles they have to tackle, but it's really been awesome. that church was made up of 5 campuses, so some of the campuses were 500.
Okay.
Probably about 750 to 1,000 on a weekly basis, but that was a question I've been asked, like how's it like coming to a little church? And I don't really like looking at that way of like
Sure.
Coming to a small church. There's a lot more ability to influence culture and the things that you do on a weekly basis, whereas there it was a machine. Like it was you're not a little guy, but you've got a part to play, you got to play your part, you got to do it really well. So here there's discussions on, hey, how do you want to do this thing? How do we want to do this thing?
Yeah.
So a lot more freedom. There's less infrastructure, a lot more freedom.
So that's why like we love Evansville in general, which I've mentioned before on a different one, but it's like this big small feel in the sense that you've got things to do, but you can like walk into a restaurant and see people you know. And I like that about our church as well, because every Sunday I can see someone I've never seen before. Yeah. I can introduce myself to someone, but I also am like, hey, I know you, I know you, I know you. But if you got that many people, it's like I'm sure every Sunday feels like a complete, like just way, way different.
Yeah. And being a staff member at a place like that,
yeah,
you do kind of, you look out and you're like, I don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
And so the familiarity, being able to look at people in our congregation and really know what they're going through, what they're dealing with, especially in my role, I can know exactly what a family's walking through. And as I'm leading worship or going through a part of our service, I'm praying for that person and thinking about, like, I know what that person's dealing with and what they're walking through, and like, Lord, meet them where they're at. Yeah. Whereas on a Sunday, you do know the people and you kind of get used to people who are sitting in specific spots in a mega church. But our largest campus, I think the seating was 2,500. Like, okay, I can't see the people that are in the very, very back. I don't know who they are.
No. That's
so
crazy.
It's a great, like, most people are like, what's it like going to a small church? It's like, no, there's so many positives. Like, every single church has its own benefits and its own role to play in the big church. So
right, that's what so the church I grew up with was like 75 people.
Yeah,
so
you
like
know them all.
Truly, oh yeah, you walk in and it's like you're with your family. You know what I mean? Like your actual family. You know, and it's just is way different. But each one has its pros and cons for sure. So now, did you always have an interest in music and ministry?
Yeah, so I actually I didn't start playing. I'd always done choir as a kid. Okay. I think I sang second soprano. I don't know if you know much about music.
Isn't that really high?
That's very high. Yeah.
Okay.
Until I was like 8th grade, and so it was a benefit. I mean, puberty happens, and your voice changes a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would do choir because I was naturally gifted in that, and then eventually came back to it. Did show choir for a really long time.
Okay.
And then I came to know Jesus when I was 16 years old, summer of my junior year, going into junior year, and didn't really put any of those pieces together. Like, I didn't put music together, ministry. I just discovered who Jesus was, loved the church, and then went to college, and I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. Yeah. I graduated with 178 hours. So.
And what did you need?
You need 126, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, did you always know you want to do that? I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, I went to nursing school. I graduated with a degree in math, and it was always running from, I think God's calling me to do ministry. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not talented enough to do that, or I'm not skilled enough to do that. So, like, I need to find a real job, and then I'll do that on the side. And so that was kind of the journey in my 20s. And I taught high school math for a little bit in between there.
Right.
And so, it was always putting some natural pieces together. I didn't start playing instruments until I was 18. I took up piano and guitar. So if you're out there and you're like, I haven't done it yet, you can still do it.
Yeah.
You can still learn.
Well, and that's, I know you're not a country music fan, so that's fine. But Luke Combs was just on Joe Rogan's podcast. And that guy...
Is he famous? Or
he's a little bit famous, yeah.
Okay.
In the country music scene, just a little bit. A few arenas here and there. But he...
Do country music people get to do those?
Heck yeah, they do.
Okay.
Heck yeah. We need to get you to a country music concert at some point.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah. But no, so he... Similar, like he did choir, I think, through, I don't know, middle school, high school, or whatever. He can't read music, though, which is wild. And he said
I probably can't anymore.
Okay, well, that's what he says. If he sits down and he like kind of messes with it, he eventually can get it. But he tried.
That means
he
doesn't.
Can't.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But then he didn't pick up the guitar, I think, until 18, 20, 21, something like that.
Yeah.
And now he's massive country music star. So, and that's what they mentioned, some other people who waited that long, and it's possible.
Yeah. But then you got the flip side of people who pick up a guitar at 4. And
Yeah.
I don't know when John Mayer picked up one, but I'm sure it was pretty.
I don't know.
I don't think it was 18.
I don't know. But then I feel like people who do that, it's like, don't you get burnt out at some point? Because stuff I did, obviously not everyone, stuff I did as a kid, I did so intensely for so long, and then by the time I hit high school, I'm like, I'm done. I'm over it.
Do you ever get burned out doing the same things?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
All the time. And that's my thing is, I don't know, you do it as a kid. Like, I want my kid to be a golfer. Don't ask me why, but I do. But I'm terrified if I give them clubs at 4, then they'll get to high school and they'll be like, I hate the Switch. It's whatever. That's their decision. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I've always tried to find somebody in my life to like pour into me. Every church we've been at, who's older. Being a staff member at church, most people don't really feel like comfortable. Like they feel comfortable giving you feedback, but they don't like. You have to kind of approach people and say, "Hey, would you mind investing in me?"
Right.
And I was sitting down with this guy's name's Adam Reisinger. He was an elder at our first church in Memphis, and I was like, we were talking about kids, and we were newly married in about 3 months. I was like, Wesley and I have decided we're going to have 2 kids, and we're going to only let them do one sport and one activity. And he's just laughing. He's like, don't make rules for kids that don't exist yet. And so like, I think you'll figure it out. Like your kid may be like, why do I want this golf club?
Right.
And then, so
it's their decision. Whatever.
Yeah. Their life, their choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, so I knew you taught for a little while. I did not know how you did nursing school for a little bit.
I was in nursing school for 1 semester and was like, no.
Okay.
Yeah. So the journey there was I knew I wanted to do worship and I wanted to do ministry, but I was like, I literally was like, I'm not talented enough to do that. Like I didn't think vocally I was good enough. I didn't think musically I was good enough. And so I was like, I need to get something that I can make like $40,000 a year. Yeah. That was like my target at that point in life. And I got in, I had the like an extremely high test entrance exam. So like I was like there and I was one of like 3 guys that got in.
Right.
So they're like, you're one of our bright spots. Like it's 47 women and 3 guys had good not one of our bright spots, but we need guys who are scoring high to get in. And so I get in and like day 1 I'm like, this is wrong. Like I get it, but I don't want to do this. And I think nursing is an incredible field. But what I was doing was I was running from what I think God was calling me to. Yeah. And he made my life super miserable in the process.
Really?
That could have been waking up at 4 a.m. to read books.
Yeah.
I have dyslexia, so that's probably a problem too. I should have thought about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, nursing school was 10 weeks of misery before I finally was like, hey, I need to switch degrees. Nice.
Yeah.
And then I took 36 hours of math in a year and a half. That was beautiful. It was... Yeah, it's sad that I do think it was beautiful and it was fun.
I hate math. I was in elementary school at my kitchen table with my dad doing math, crying because I just couldn't figure it out.
So that was me. I can remember a few things as a child, and my parents have a book out that's like, I'm in like the 2nd grade, and it's like, if was the word. And every time I would get to if, I go, it, and my parents were just standing above me going like, if... And I just could not get the word right. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I didn't know that I had like a reading disability.
Right.
But yes, I understand. Like you numbers. Yeah. Me letters.
Me letters.
Me letters.
Which I will say, I ended up getting math, like my degree's in finance. But it was like, for me, it was logical finance math. It wasn't the random letters.
Be careful.
Finance has some of that. And I took derivatives, and I about failed I probably should have.
Calculus, you mean?
No, well, no.
This is pre-calculus.
No, calculus, I don't think I ever took calculus.
Oh.
I took pre-cal, which...
Test derivatives.
Didn't go well. But this was like financial derivatives, so like stock options and stuff, but then it gets into all sorts of weird math, and that was a nightmare. I probably should have failed that class, but he gave me an A. He was like, if you try... you get an A.
I should have failed, but I got an A.
Well, so I went to I got, I think, the lowest grade in that class on a test out of the whole class. It was like a D. And I walk into his office, because it was my last semester, and I was like, what do I need in this class to, like, graduate? Because I'm nervous about that. And he goes, you'll be fine. And I'm like, no,
that's not a good answer.
What do I need? I need to make sure I graduate with this. And he goes, you'll be fine. That's all he'd give me. And I walked out, and I should have at least gotten a C or a D in that class. And I think he gave everyone
4.0.
He said, if you show up, if you try, you'll be fine. But that was his thing, is you'll be fine. And I'm like, I don't like that. That's a lot of trust to just place into someone. But yeah.
And you leave and you have a C. It's like, I don't really know that. That wasn't my definition of fine.
A C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, average.
If I went back, I'd probably change my definition. Like, I was like, if I'm not getting an A, I'm not doing it right, and a B is okay, and anything below a B is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And if I went back, I think I'd shift that. I'd be like, who cares? If I graduate, if I pass, it's great. Let me enjoy life.
Yeah.
A little more. But you live and you learn through that, and good things come from it. So, but all your degrees, though, or the things that you pursued,
I have a degree. Yeah.
The things you pursued, so are all helping people in some way, though.
Yeah.
So, like, you had a general idea deep down, I guess, of what you were trying to do or what you needed to do.
Yeah. I never really thought I never thought I would use my degree in my math degree, because I have a teaching, like, when you have 176 hours, whatever it is, it's 170 something. It's a victory lap at junior college and a victory lap at the university. We call it, so 3 of each. So just 4. Like, I never thought I would use that degree, and it just so happened I did a residency with Pine Lake when I was 25, and I got to the end of that year. You do a year-long residency, and you're underneath a person in your field. So I had a worship pastor. His name was Jason, and loved it, but I was like, I don't think I'm ready for this full-time. Like, I'm not mature enough. I was 26 by the end of that. And so I remember, like, having a conversation with him of, like, hey, what if I go teach at the local high school for a couple of years, and you just keep investing in me and spending time, like, helping me grow and develop. And I just met my now wife. I think we had, these all plans were, like, falling into place at the same time. We'd gone on, like, our first date. And Jason was like, that sounds awesome. And so I never thought I would use my teaching degree. And I stepped in, like, day one. I was like, what have I done? Like,
really?
What kind of situation am I walking into? 140 11th graders each year. And, like, it just clicked. I was like, oh, I love people, and I love helping people, and I love teaching, and I'm good at math. And so those were some of the best years of my life, I think. Those 2 years of teaching. Yeah, they were awesome. We ended up, my second year, like, I went into my interview, basically said, like, hey, I'm coming here and I'm going to tell my kids about Jesus, so if you don't want to fire me for that reason, don't hire me. And I was like, I probably didn't get that job. He called me immediately afterwards, like, hey, you want to take this job? I was like,
really?
All right, yeah. I mean, it's Mississippi, a little bit different, where everybody's a Christian. And so my second year teaching, I had all these 11th graders who were coming to play disc golf with me after school, and we were playing board games, and, like, so I reached out to them. I was like, hey, how would y'all feel about, like, me discipling y'all, like, going through a study together for the next year? And so there were 6 of them, and all 6 of them were ushers in me and Wesley's wedding, like, later that year. And so it's a really cool. We still play fantasy football together. We still text. We just got an invitation to one of them's wedding yesterday.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it was a I guess helping people. I don't really think about that a lot, because I want to assist people, but I don't know that I always feel like I'm helping people.
Well, I'd say you are.
Oh, thanks.
Especially even in all those things, though. Yeah. I guess a teacher can go in and purely teach and not try and, like, help. But obviously,
you're the teacher everybody complains about. If you're that person.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, I'd say most teachers out there really care. They want to help in some way. Yeah. And then nursing, I mean, the fact that you even thought about that's a huge helping career. And then now what you're doing. So, I'd say it's definitely a helping thing.
I talk to a lot of people, especially, like, college age students or younger people, that feel this pressure and tension of, like, I've got to get it right now or my life's over. Like, I've got to get this decision correct. Like, you can't maneuver and change careers or you're a failure, which I'm like, dude, I didn't really figure out what I was doing until I was 28. Like, I didn't step into this role. I've been doing this for about 6 years now, full time, 6.5. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, I see that. I mean, I was that way. Like, I felt like it all had to be figured out. And we
had to make an A.
Yeah, you had to make the A's. You had to have perfect this and perfect that. And then once you jumped into the real world, it's like, go, go, go. Which is just not the case. But I saw something that was like, you should be at 21, you should be considered like a 3-year-old adult, because it's just like you're figuring out everything.
Very true.
Like, your whole life at 18 just shifts in one way or another.
Yeah.
And you restart, and then a lot of people have that pressure of I have to get it right, which is ridiculously
Once you turn
crippling.
18, it should be like, how old are you? I'm 1.
Yes,
Adult
exactly.
age 1.
Adult age 1. I like it. I think we should rebrand it all.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat.
It would make people feel a little bit better about being immature.
Oh, heck
I'm a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
What do you expect from me to do?
Yeah, which some people take that to the other extreme.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So okay, so Mississippi. Do you miss Mississippi, or you like Evansville? Like, how's that transition been?
Yeah, that's a pretty decent question. We worked with an organization called Slingshot,
okay.
Which is a hiring agency. I have a friend who's an executive there, and City Church was our first kind of adventure in that as we were looking for jobs.
Okay.
And we had a lot of peace, and we get on this plane. We're landing in Indiana, and me and my wife both look at each other like, well, we can say we've been to Indiana now. We've never been here. My family's from Kentucky, but you usually go to Ohio or other states. You don't really go to Indiana.
Nope.
Yeah, you're from.
It's a drive-through state. Yeah.
I never heard of Evansville, but we landed here. It was really cold. About this time. Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Probably last weekend, I think is what it was. And it was cold. It was windy. Mississippi is humid. It's hot.
Right.
100% of the time. There's been Christmases that are 85 and 120% humidity, and it feels like 100 degrees outside. You're wearing shorts and flip-flops. But no, I think there's some differences in Indiana that are both nice and both kind of that's different. I haven't really adjusted to that. I think Southern hospitality, we would say we're a Southern state. I don't think we have that. I don't think we have Southern hospitality the way that the Mississippi does.
Sure.
Don't really miss the heat. Don't really miss. There's a lot of things I don't miss about Mississippi, but really have enjoyed Evansville.
Yeah.
So
it's a good spot. Yeah, and Indiana, the whole state, it is like a drive-through state. But once people who settle here, I feel really enjoy it.
Yeah.
After a while, now Indianapolis, I do not like Indianapolis.
I've never been there.
I don't go.
So,
in my opinion, don't go. I don't know why. It just seems so.
So you're not looking forward to selling any real estate in Indianapolis?
No, I will not go to India.
Cool.
No. Now, if someone wants to buy there, we can hook them up with someone good. But you will not have me in Indianapolis.
Nice. Famous last words.
It's just, I know, right?
What's it like for you growing up in Henderson, Kentucky? Correct.
Yeah. So right across. So we're
2 minutes away from the state line. Not right now, but
right.
Yeah.
And that's what, since Julie and I live downtown Evansville, someone said something because we sell in Kentucky too. So I was showing a home in Henderson the other day, and they were like, "Oh, I won't make you drive over here." And I'm like, honestly, it's a quicker drive for me to Henderson than it is to the north side of Evansville.
Yeah.
But Henderson, growing up in Henderson, everyone hated Indiana. So it was the thing of, oh, you're a Hoosier. And I'd always make the joke, what's the best part about living in Evansville? You can look across the river and see the promised land, which is Kentucky.
Yeah.
And we would always give people crap about it. But it was small, 40,000 people compared to 120 in Evansville. And we'd come over here for the mall and some restaurants, but that's it. And then we'd go immediately back over. So then when we left college, I was like, I'm not moving to Evansville. My parents had moved to Evansville. I'm like, I'm not moving to Evansville because, one, you want to separate and get your own freedom a lot of times.
Sure.
And two, I hated Indiana. But I got a job here, so moved. And then, honestly, we just fell in love with it.
Isn't it funny how you just swallow your preferences when it's I got a job?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was I had to get something. And then for Julie, growing up in a town of just a few thousand, Evansville's massive to her. Yeah. But it is the thing of the big small town. It's quaint. You've got maybe not the Southern hospitality that some states have, but you're not. People aren't rude usually.
Yeah.
And we're so close to, we're going to Nashville this weekend, 2 hours. We go to Louisville quite a bit.
We're going to Cincinnati in July.
Taylor Swift.
3 hours.
Yeah,
look at that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but everything's so close, and I don't know. It's just a great town. Now, I won't move back to Kentucky. Now we spend time over there. I really enjoy it. There's I was driving to a showing last night, and it's quaint. The people are friendly. They've just got those nice little small spots. But it's reversed. It's I'd rather live here and visit here and there to their restaurants, where growing up it was completely opposite.
There's some good stuff in Henderson. It's a nice little...
It's grown, though. For the longest time, I considered Henderson very stagnant. And my opinion of it, because you have all the traffic that comes down what they call the strip, which is, in my opinion, the ugliest part of Henderson, and then goes around. So to get to downtown Henderson,
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
you've got to take a detour. Well, that's the prettiest part of downtown.
Agreed.
So they finally started to like invest in that area, and they've got good businesses, but traffic just doesn't flow that way.
Yeah.
But they've got potential if they can figure it out. And then Owensboro is awesome.
Yeah, super cool.
I mean, their downtown is unreal.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But it's all
that is the so we were in Memphis for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
We lived off if anybody's familiar with Memphis, it's we were off Poplar, which is like the street that goes from the Mississippi River all the way through Memphis into Collierville and then Piperton, and we were on like a minute drive from Poplar, and so we could get anywhere in like we could get to an IMAX theater in 2 minutes. And so like being in Evansville, we went to Mississippi and it was like, oh, it takes me 30 minutes to get to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
It takes me, and so coming to Evansville, it's like I can get anywhere in the city in about 6 or 7 minutes because of the Lloyd. And I've heard people complain about traffic they don't understand, because I'm like, I've never had traffic in Evansville.
Right.
Even with so many people in the city, it does feel like the infrastructure is good and everything kind of flows in the similar way that it did in Memphis of like, here's all the businesses and they're all off the Lloyd.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool that was a big thing for us. Like we want to go somewhere where we can easily access, like I can get to Target in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and get to my church. And I think it's like my wife and I argue about it, but 8 minutes I think is what
is it quicker for you than her?
No comment.
Okay. The one time that we were in the car together going to, was it Nashville? Nashville, right?
See that Titans-Giants game?
Your driving terrified me.
Yeah, I've heard. Not from you, from a lot of people.
And I'm the one that when people get in the car with me, they're like, dude, you need to slow down. Like you're on the Lloyd, I'm going from left lane to right lane to left lane. And I got in there with you, and I tensed up, and I was holding on to that handle, and I'm like, I am scared for my life. So I'm sure you shave off a few minutes compared to
so a couple things. One, some people say be a defensive driver. I'm an offensive driver. Like you ain't gonna get me.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna get me. Number of wrecks I've had. That's not wood. That have really been my fault. I hit a hydroplane when I was like 15 and hit a pole.
Doesn't count.
Other than that, nothing. Yeah. So like I'm doing pretty good. Having a child. When I get on the Lloyd with her in the car, I kind of feel like at this point my life is slowing down. People are probably just honking and like flying past me because I'm like, I got this cool kid in the back.
That's
like,
right.
She we're not flying over lanes because she's in the other side. I don't need to get hit.
Yeah.
But probably if we were to go back and do that trip again, I'm probably driving similarly. So
I don't think most of it was fine until like all of a sudden someone like we had traffic and they're stopped. And you didn't hit the brakes until like you can see the person's head in their driver's seat. That's when you hit the brakes.
Trying to read their bumper stickers.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, you almost got
added them to my car.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I get that. So Lucy though.
Yes.
How old's Lucy?
How old?
Yeah.
Yeah, she turned 6 months this past Monday.
So how has that transition been?
Yeah.
Because I'm terrified.
Oh, dude.
Of that.
I've always wanted kids. I've always wanted to be married. And I would joke with my wife, like, I'd really love to see my grandchildren someday. Because I'm 34, and we just had Lucy. And so I'm like, hey, if I'm 34, and let's say she's 22 when she has a kid, like, will my grandchildren ever really know me? So I'm thinking a little bit, I'd be 56.
You got plenty of time.
But Wes and I waited about 5.5 years to have kids because she's 6 years younger than me. I was like, I really want you to figure out like your career, your life. Like I got the joy of my 20s to go wherever I wanted to, like anywhere in the world. And so we decided we wanted to have children, and so we had Lucy back in September. And so I feel like we had enough time together to kind of figure out a lot of things as a family before bringing another person into that situation. And it's really just been like, I mean, the most incredible team situation. Yeah. And just constant conversation about what we're doing to help her, to if like I have a busy day today. Wesley is kind of handling some of the stuff with Lucy. And then if she were having a really busy day, I'd be like, I'm going to take her from daycare, pick her up, you know, put her to bed. That's been a minor failure from time to time. She doesn't like me putting her to sleep. But she's awesome, man. There's nothing like, I never knew how incredible having kids would be. Like, it is truly like, if I succeed in one thing in life, two things in life, it's being a great husband and being a great dad. And that's like, I keep reminding myself of that. And it's hard. There's times that are hard, but I heard a lot of people complain when I told them like, hey, we're having a kid. It's like, get ready never to sleep again. I'm like, why are you saying negative things about something that's going to be phenomenal? Like, I would ask people that and they would make them kind of uncomfortable. But I'm also like, you're not going to make me feel like sad about having a child. Right. And so I've really tried to keep that attitude, and like, it never fails when I see her. It just, there's a love that you can't explain or describe until you've had kids. And if you lean into it, like, and you remember, like, you get one shot at it. Yeah. Like, I get one chance with Lucy from birth to 18 to love her and lead her well, and then release her into hopefully 18 at adult age 0.
At adult age 0,
you're gone.
Right.
You know, if I look at it, I'm like, I don't want to ever regret not being the best dad I could be for her, or being the best husband for Wesley. I fail a lot at that. The dad portion, I don't feel like she's a baby. Like,
right. Yeah.
She looks at me and smiles even if I'm frustrated.
Right.
So, but it's great. It is such a depiction of God's love, and I understand, like, as soon as I saw her, and a lot of guys told me early on, like, hey, don't be sad if, like, don't feel like something's wrong with you if when you see your child, you don't have that immediate connection, because you didn't carry that child for 9 months. I think that's, like, helpful thoughts, but as soon as I saw her, I was like, I will kill people for you. Yeah. Like, it was like, no one will stop me from taking care of you. Yeah. And it's been awesome in that regard, and I understand more of, like, there's nothing she could do. There's nothing she could ever say or do that I'm not going to be. I might be disappointed. I'm sure I will be. Sure. But there's nothing that she could ever do or say where I'm like, you're not my kid anymore. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to love you. And so
that's going to be cool.
It's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, that is, I mean, it's such the purest depiction of God's love that we could probably ever get to experience that from that side, because, you know, a lot of people struggle with, well, if I screw this up, God doesn't love me anymore. He's going to be angry. Yeah. And sure, he's got his things that he wants, you know, how things to go. But same thing, like you said, even if you're disappointed or they do this or that, like, that's not going to change that's your kid. Yeah. Which is really neat. That's what. So my buddy Cam, you know Cam, he mentioned, he was like, it's got so a little cool. Yeah, about the same age. Yeah. And he's like, it's so cool when I come in the room and she hears me, the head just swings over and that smile hits her face, and I'm like, I could see where that'd be really neat.
As a dad early on, so from about birth, actually, like baby age 0 to about 2 months, Lucy didn't really. I couldn't do anything to make her happy. I couldn't make her smile. I couldn't make her. I mean, they're not laughing at 2 months old. Right. And we went on a Thanksgiving trip, and she was having a really bad night, and I just took her downstairs and let Wesley and her family like play games, and I think it was Thanksgiving night. Yeah. And I put on this stupid song called "Raining Tacos."
I think I played that for me.
I mean, I should probably purchase the song. It's really good. Yeah. But I put it on the YouTube video downstairs in the Airbnb we were at, and like I was just playing with her, and she just started smiling. I was like, oh wow. Yeah. Like, and so that was the beginning. I felt like all right, I made it. Like you actually do like me. I just felt for a while I was like, this kid hates me. Like,
yeah, was that tough? Because obviously, like, you feel the love there, but yeah, I mean, that's a weird time frame, and obviously, like, mom's carried the baby for 9 months, and now mom can meet more needs typically.
A lot more needs.
Can. Yeah. So I mean, how was that? Was that tough to digest that for?
So we don't live near any family. I think the closest family, direct relatives, is 8 hours away. So they all came in. I had 3 weeks off. Our church gave me 3 weeks off, which was amazing. Yeah. So I didn't have to figure out baby life and work life together. So they were all in town. So when we got home from the hospital, it would be like, mama would feed, here's the baby to the sibling, and then like 30 minutes later, they'd be like, hey, do you want to hold her? And when they'd hold her, hand her to me, she's like, she's hungry again. Yeah. She's no longer sleeping. Right. And she's mad. Yeah. And so every single time it was like a bomb, and she would just cry, and I'm like, after a while, I was like, this is like really affecting me.
Yeah.
Like, my kid doesn't like me. And so that was kind of just I kept on saying, like, this is just normal. This is normal. Like, I saw all the external reasons why. Mm-hmm. But internally, I was still like, I like this kid. And I want her to like me. And so, yeah, it was pretty tough not being able, when you're a new dad, and I think every kid's probably different, no matter if it's your first or 10th.
Yeah.
They're not the same. And so, like, it was figuring out, like, what do I do to feel connected to you, or for you to feel connected to me? And so once it finally clicked, like, I sing to her constantly. I come in, like, I dance with her all the time. And you start figuring out these things that they really enjoy and really like. And it just makes everything fun. I've said to Wesley, I was like, I don't think there's ever been a dad that sings more to their kids. I don't even talk to her. I just sing to her. Like, we're singing regular conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough. It was the unexpected aspect of parenthood that I was like, this is miserable.
Yeah.
Like, I know I've given other people reasons not to like me, but I helped you come to life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was tough.
Like, well, do you want her to follow in your footsteps as far as like music and all that goes? Do you not care? Or do you not want her to follow in your footsteps? I know that's a thing too sometimes.
I don't think. So one of the things that I really, so I'm Enneagram. Are you an Enneagram person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, if you say you're a 4, I'm not going to know that, but I know mine and a few others.
Yeah. What are you?
A 7.
A 7.
Like
sweet.
the purest 7 that can be.
Those are typically my guys I really enjoy spending time with. But I mean, I like everybody. But I did say to one of my best friends, he's one of the guys from Mississippi. I was like, I can't stand 5s, and he's like, I'm a 5. I was like, Jonathan, you don't count. Like, you're a really healthy 5.
Yeah.
5s are fine, but I'm an 8 wing 7.
Okay.
So, but in unhealth I go to a 5.
Okay.
And I don't like the way I feel when I'm in unhealth. So
wait,
5s,
what's a 5? What's a 5?
5's kind of the I believe it's the like you conserve all your energy, and you're always like, you don't want to exert a bunch of energy, and so like that's what I became when I was in a lot of unhealth the last season of life, and so I think I've associated that with so that's an unhealthy 5 essentially. I've associated that with like some trauma in my life. In a health, I go to a 2, which is the helper, and so like, yeah, I'll go help you with whatever.
What I say with your career choices
there. People. But Enneagram, you brought up, what was your question? Oh, do I want her to follow my footsteps? Yeah. So I'm an 8, and my wife's a 3. 3 is really image conscious, and so we've had a lot of time refining and thinking through like. So 8s don't care about their image. They're like, trust me, I know how I am. I can deal with this. 3s are like concerned about everybody's image. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that dynamic going against each other, it's a recipe for disaster, because she's over here being like, I need to control Randy's image because people are going to think he's a jerk, or he's going to think this and this and this. And so we've had a lot of conversations throughout our marriage of like, hey, when you actually like clamp down on me in public, you're basically telling me I don't trust that you understand how you're being perceived. Right. And so we've had conversations regarding our child of like, okay, we need to be conscious of this because we have 2 different parenting. We have 2 different thoughts on image and like following in footsteps or doing things or being active in like music or sports or and so I think we've kind of come to the consensus of like, we don't want to project anything onto her, and if she shows interest in stuff like, hey, like if you want to do, Wesley says dance is like the thing that she's fearful of. She's like, I don't want to become the dance mom.
Oh really?
I mean, dance mom's fine. I think it's more of the time commitment of like how much time commitment. But if she shows interest in music, I've already decided like, hey, I want to learn piano. I am not teaching her because I don't want to associate.
Probably smart.
Yeah, like my dad, I never could please my dad. Yeah. So I'd be trying to learn piano and he would be frustrated, or so I've got those thoughts in my head of like, I want her to discover what she likes and then help her and assist her, and like if she wants, I mean, I might coach soccer. Like soccer would be fun. Yeah. That's the one where Wesley and I were. She's gonna play soccer. She's gonna play an instrument, and it's like, you can't make those decisions for your kids. But if she shows interest in, obviously we want her to know Jesus, and but you can't control that. Right. But if she shows interest in music or whatever sports, she'll have to be a Giants fan. So she doesn't. Okay. She doesn't get, that's where we draw the line.
There it is. There's the requirement. That's a tough life, though, isn't it? Giants.
I mean, we made the playoffs this year, so
there
it's
you
all
go.
good. But yeah, so that's kind of our thoughts, and it's all theoretical until you get there, and we've discovered that of like, I discovered when I was an intern at the church, had all these philosophies like, if you did this and this and this, like people would like your ministry would be better. And then once I got in that position, I was like, whoa, I know nothing about anything.
Yeah.
And so similar with kids, I think we'll figure it out by failing.
Yeah.
Making them upset. So
yeah, I think it's smart though, like you saying I'm not going to be the one to teach, because I don't know that I could see where that could become a big problem. I think Justin Thomas, the golfer, I think it's who it was, his dad's his like coach, and I'm like, that's got to be so tough for both of you.
yeah,
You know, like one of you gets frustrated, it's going to affect probably your relationship, and then I mean, what if he's not the best coach for you? You're going to fire your own father? Like how? I mean, there's so many things.
You're like, I can either tarnish the relationship with my dad or never move forward in my abilities and career.
Which for him it's worked. It's worked great, right? The dude's a phenomenal golfer, and it seems like from the short documentary I watched that they have a good relationship. But I could see where it'd be rewarding that you would have a piece in them moving forward to their success or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's got to be so stressful to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, how many movies have you seen where it's like the dad is like just punishing their kid in sports, and it's like you can just see the resentment on the child actor's face, and like, you know, and it's what drives them to be awesome, which great.
Yeah, I don't
enjoy counseling, man.
Right. Right. And as far as you said, ministry too, like you hopped into that, and you realize like, oh, there's a lot more that goes into this too. I'm curious about all that, because so my dad was a pastor for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I got to see, I guess mine was backwards with ministry, and it did teach me something, because I wasn't like in the congregation thinking, oh, do this, do this, do this. I got to see the struggles behind the scenes and how that goes.
Yeah.
And ministry is very unique, in any business has that, you know, where someone like your employee or someone's going to be like, well, we should change this. But ministry is like so much more intense, I feel like, with that. And everyone has an opinion, but until you see all the behind the scenes stuff and the tolls that it takes and whatnot, it is interesting. So that's like, we've tried as churchgoers to not be those people, you know what I mean, to support and whatnot.
Yeah, I invited you to a feedback meeting and you didn't show up.
Yeah, I was out of town. I was going to email you about that and I forgot.
That's fine.
So I'll give you my feedback later.
Okay, good.
But no, it's one of those things of like, you can give your input and opinions. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you're a member of the church, but at the same time, like, there's so much more. Like, it's got to be so tough. Like, even you said, like, it's if you don't ask for feedback or something, like, no one's going to give it to you. But if they do give it to you, I'm sure it's given harshly sometimes, as like, this is the way it needs to be. Has that been your experience? Like, has it been super tough, or has it been more like, oh, people are more understanding than I thought they'd be?
Break those questions up a little bit for me.
Okay,
I have a lot of thoughts.
Let's Let's start with going into ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts of how people would give you feedback and opinions. Have they been more like kind with, maybe this is a good idea, but we trust and support you, or has it been more aggressive of, you're screwing it all up, do it the way I want you to do it, and not specific to this church? It can be.
It's not the first one. I don't think a lot of people have a good understanding of preferences in the church.
Yeah.
And there's a lot tied up in that. Like, I think some people think like, well, I tithe, so you should do what I want. But that's not really the meaning of the church.
Mm-hmm.
The church is not about you.
Yeah.
People typically don't come from an understanding because they don't have that background,
right?
And they don't have, which is fine. Like, so it is kind of like help. I try to take opportunities to help people understand. Like, well, here's the reasons why we might not be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that may be frustrating to people, but I think it's more loving to try to give some understanding. I think when you bring clarity and understanding to situations, that shows more care long term than just saying yes or no. But no, people. I get feedback a lot. Being in a creative role, like people, your art is up for interpretation. And so your interpretation may be totally different than my desired expression. So people typically don't. I've got one lady in our church right now that I go to a lot. Her name is Elaine. She's awesome. Do you know Miss Elaine?
I don't think so.
You know, she dresses amazingly every week.
Oh, no. Okay, I don't think I know her, but I think I know who you're talking about.
She's awesome. She writes down notes every single week of things that she thinks would be beneficial for me to know, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like, we disagreed in that meeting this past weekend.
Okay.
And she was like, I just love having conversations. I was like,
Yeah.
me too. And I love that we can have that dialogue. So she's a unique person that that isn't really trying to change things. She's just like, these are the things I'm feeling. This is how I feel about this. And so and it's helpful because I'm not her age, so it's helpful for me to see her perspective.
Right.
But most times people will come forward with, and it's always, you don't really always expect it. Like, you'll be having a conversation, you're like, whoa, here comes an opinion about something that I love that, but I don't know that we can do that. And so it's always hard to try to make people feel seen, understood, and then validated in a sense that, like, I hear what you're saying, but like we just don't have the capacity to do that. Is a lot of the times that people want to, hey, I really like this aspect on a Sunday morning, or I'd like us to do this ministry. It's like, well, there's only so many of us.
Right.
Like, we're at this phase. And so bringing vision and clarity to your mission often helps kind of alleviate some of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't get a ton of feedback, but when I do, you could tell me I suck at what I'm doing, and I'd be like, cool.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's your opinion.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Well,
I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does. It does. I think, I don't know. Part of it too is the willingness of those people to actually help. Because if they bring an idea, and the only issue is the capacity to implement it because of who's helping.
Yeah.
Well, if they're like, I'll be the one to help you do this, then that can alleviate that. But then, there's still so many cogs in the wheel and things that are moving pieces. And
even in that, like, let's say it's like, hey, I want to do this X idea. It's like, well, would you like to have that up? Then if you're not ready for the infrastructure of that idea,
right?
What if they don't do it the way you want it, or like the way that actually lines up with your vision?
Right.
It's like, then you're doing damage control in that, and it just gets messy. And so,
but it's real wild if they don't even offer to
most
volunteer in the
don't,
thing that they're bringing up.
And not every single thing there is that opportunity. Like, in my case, it's like, I would really like to sing this song. It's like, well, are you going to sing that? I'm like, I don't know that that's what they want, or that they're even capable of doing that.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Church. I mean, obviously, church is a great thing, necessary. It's beautiful in a ton of ways, but it does create its own. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
And I think so many people, when stuff does come up in church, like, people are very quick to be like, well, why isn't everyone getting along? Or why? I mean, it's like, you're all imperfect people anyway. Now we should interact in a way that shows God's love and whatnot. But it is a group of imperfect people.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people tie obviously their identity into the church.
Yeah.
And things that they want are associated with their identity. And so when you start messing with identity, not saying that every person's preference is tied up in identity, but when you start messing with people or pressing on people's identity, that gets messy, and that's how people are, because your opinion is an outcome of or like an overflow of your identity.
Yeah.
And so, preferences are not bad. I appreciate them, so anybody listening to this, if like they're like, I can't tell I got anything, I openly welcome feedback.
Oh yeah,
and like
absolutely.
try to.
Well, and that's something we've seen with you. Of like, I mean, you are constantly asking for opinions, and you take them super well. So kudos to you on that, because most people don't take.
I'm a very opinionated person, so I learned really fast. Like, hey, have an open door, because I've got 30 opinions for every one that you may have. Yeah. So. Well,
and that's, like you said, people tie their identity into the church, and I think sometimes too they tie it into the leadership of the church.
Yeah.
And I've seen that so many times over the years. It's kind of a tangent, but like, you have a pastor that has some sort of moral failure, because they're people too, and it happens. Yeah. And then that's when you have these massive church splits, and people walk away from the church completely, or they get upset, and it's like, look, if you were following the pastor of that church, that's your first problem. Like, because Christ is the head of the church, that's sure, he's in leadership, you hold him to a higher standard, but I think that becomes really, really tough because we were going to go. So when we came to Evansville, had decided basically on what church, and that exact thing happened before we had committed, and we had made the thing where like we're not. Actually, it wasn't a moral failure, but he got fired for a separate reason, and we had made the decision we're not following him.
Yeah.
But we also don't want to get into the middle of a church that's going through something that's really tough right now. And then later down the road, there was an issue with that. But so many people, like, it destroys their faith because they've seen this person that they feel like is perfect.
Yeah.
And then turns out not to be wrong. And, like, obviously you're not the lead pastor or the executive pastor at our church, but you're a worship pastor. So you're in that role. And I'm sure people look to you that way, which you've probably got to feel a little pressure with that of if someone sees me do this or say this or whatnot, like, how's it going to be conveyed? So is that pressure challenging?
So I recently had a conversation with somebody, and said this, like, you're in ministry, your life's under a microscope. And so anything I say on here is examinable, like even like my thoughts on people's preferences.
Right.
But yeah, there is a pressure, like, and I mean, Scripture tells you like you will be judged differently, and so like that is a high enough thing to be like, even the things that maybe people don't see, is it okay if no one sees it? Like, is it okay for me to I don't have road rage, even though I drive like
right.
I cause road rage.
Yeah.
But let's say I'm driving through Nashville like a crazy person on the way to an NFL game, and or somebody's doing that, and I flip them off. Like, nobody saw that. But is that okay? Like, that's kind of the challenge, because I'm like, well, I'm held to a different standard, because one day I will be judged for my actions and the condition of my heart and the things that I say and do to people, and internally as well. And so it starts there, because I really do fear that. I'm like, I could be a great person on the platform and in the church and be a terrible person elsewhere.
Right.
That's going to eventually be exposed.
Yep.
And so it starts... any church leadership, if it's not starting like in your household, like on your knees in the Word, I think you're just setting yourself up for long-term failure. Like, if your closeness to Jesus is only associated to your job, or you do it to get by, like, it's gonna eventually come out in some ugly ways, and that's when things. Not saying that it always happens that way, but I do think that moral failures are. I've distanced myself from Jesus, and I've distanced myself from good things. But on the note of, I love my lead pastor at my last church, named Chip Henderson. He would always say constantly, he would say, ministry is what you leave behind as you follow Jesus. And so the goal is, like, if ministry is very much based on you, if you're a you-focused church, or like a person-centered church or a person-centered ministry, you're actually, like, I've thought about this a lot recently. I'm like, if I were to have set up my current ministry the way it is, focused and needing me to operate, when I leave, I've actually hurt everybody that I've asked to follow me, because now they're like, what do I do? Like, thinking, like, so a guy on my team, Josh Cole, he plays guitar. He's a phenomenal human being. Like, just think so much of him. But I love that guy. And if I am focusing my ministry on, you need me to operate, and I'm the center of this, when I leave, I've left him in a spot where it's like, what does he do? Like, how does he operate? How does he continue on doing what we were doing? Because what I would love is, like, one day be like, hey, the next guy's got you. Like, y'all finish, keep going. Like, this is you should always be training up leaders to know that one day you're going to be releasing them either to a new season of ministry with a new person, or a new, like, place in the kingdom. And so I think it's self-sabotaging on just a very spiritual level when a church focuses so much on a personality or an identity with a person, and then you see the ramifications of church splits and all kinds of stuff. I try to intentionally. My goal is one day to be the worship pastor that doesn't sing any songs. Like, that's my goal. Like, I want to see everybody being built up and doing my job,
right?
So that people, if the biggest compliment I could hear is like, which guy's like the main guy? It's like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, the focus should not be on who is the lead pastor, who is the worship guy, who's the executive pastor. It should be like, this helped me follow Jesus.
Right.
So,
well, I think a lot of that stems from the openness that, like, you are imperfect people, And I've heard a lot of our church leadership, like, tell times when they've had this mistake, or they've done this, or they, you know what I mean? Like, and it shows like, oh, you are just like me. You know what I mean? Like, we've all got our flaws. But it is tough because you are under a microscope. I mean, a lot of people will put you there no matter what. And then even your family, so growing up, like my life as a pastor's kid was
under a microscope.
Yeah. And so that was, which my parents did a great job of. Every now and then someone would go, well, Mitchell, you do this. And my parents would be like, no, you get away from him. Like, he does not work for the church. Yeah. You know what I mean? But people always expect more out of you or whatnot in leadership. And it can be tough, especially for your family, which mine was, it worked well, but it happens. So did you have someone that you've modeled kind of, because obviously define success, right? That's the whole gist of this thing. So did you have someone that you modeled your life after, of this is who I see as successful, and if I could do my life that way, this is how I would do it?
Yeah. There've been multiple people along the journey that I've seen and just really admired, either from really close or at a distance. From a life perspective, I've got two guys that have been so impactful early on in my life. One of his name is Philip Wood. He doesn't have social media. He'll never hear this podcast. Okay. He's a Cowboys fan and stays off social media probably for good reason. Yeah. He was my youth pastor. He's an enigma. I'm like, how have you lived the life you've lived? He's got 5 kids, I think, at this point. Okay. I just really needed to accent like he's a Cowboys fan, so he needs extra grace and love. But he was my youth pastor growing up. We had a youth ministry at my home church in Hattiesburg of I think at one point it was 500-600 kids on a Wednesday night. It was wild. We were on the same property, 16th section land. Is that the same thing in Indiana? 16th section land is for high schools and schools? 16th section land. Do you know what that is?
Okay. No, I don't.
Mississippi, it's every plot of land. I think it's 64 plots or whatever. The 16th section is for educational purposes.
Oh, no. Okay. I mean, that might be a thing.
You can do whatever you want.
I have no idea. Yeah.
I don't care about schools. Just kidding. But our high school was on the biggest high school in the state's property. We had a 100-year lease, Temple Baptist Church. And so you immediately have a 6A school, just after school kids coming over to play basketball and do all kinds of stuff. So our youth ministry was massive. So I felt like a little guy, and I got invited to a summer camp in Ruston, Louisiana, and we probably brought 200 kids to this camp, and I was next door to the youth pastor. We were in dorms, and I was next door. One night he was just hey, come and hang out, and tell me your story. It was just the two of us just chatting in a dorm. And it was the first time where I was whoa, this guy, he's a really important dude. And he's listening to me, intently. He's the best listener I've ever met. And so I came to know Jesus at that camp, and then started getting to know Philip, and he ended up marrying me and Wesley. But the model of his life of just loving his family so well, loving his wife so well, and that being the most important thing, has been something I'm I want to do that. I want to do that. And then a guy named Jason Elam, he was the worship pastor at Pine Lake when I was an intern. Okay. He just shared his life with me. It was unlike most. I think I got the best experience out of any intern, because it was he took me to a half marathon. We're gonna run a half marathon together. We're gonna do this together. We're gonna do this trip together, and just really spent time pouring into me. And so I think that was already something I was craving, and then I found people that were doing it, and I was like, oh, this does matter. This matters to people. And so I've modeled personal and career off that of my ministry philosophy is people don't care about what you know until they know how much you care. And so those two guys, if I ever have any sort of life situation, I call them and be like, hey, I need some advice. And they're just a well of wisdom. And then professionally, my first lead pastor at our church in Memphis, his name is Jason Stockdale. He has just such a great vision for understanding people and understanding ministry, and I've just really admired the way he approaches stuff. And so we talk every single week still.
Yeah.
Like I'll shoot him a question or a thought. So yeah, those are the guys that I think any person, like a leader, hopefully has people that they're looking back and being like, how did that person do it?
Yeah.
Or how were they successful? Because those are all successful people.
Right.
They've proven they can be successful. Don't model your life after people that aren't successful.
Right. So if you could sum that up then, and you've made it through life, and you look back and you're like, I've had a successful life. What is that?
Like I'm at the end of my life.
Yeah, you're at the end of your life, and you say, I did it. I was successful. What does that look like?
I think going back, I said this the other day. I want Lucy to look back on her life and say, my dad was wise. And she's like, that's the quality you want her to say? And I was like, well, obviously I want her to know that I love her.
Yeah.
But I think that like for her, it's like I want her to view me as wise, hopefully because I've grown in wisdom, but that she can always approach me knowing I'll give her helpful insight into life. And so I hope that at the end of life I can look back and I've poured into people that I'm still connected to, whether it's family, whether that's people in ministry, and they view me as somebody that will help them through what they're working through, no matter what it is. Like it's professional, personal, and then I give them insight. And so I'm trying to always grow in understanding and how people operate and how they view life, so that I can have more insight. So I don't know if that answers your question. Maybe just looking back and I think if you look back on your life and your trail of influence is very small, you probably weren't very successful. But if you've got a pretty big, I'll bring it back to sports. So there's the Bill Parcells coaching tree. And there's so many people, the Bill Belichick coaching tree. Those guys are not super successful. They've all failed as head coaches in the NFL. But I think that's like people's legacy. They look at like, who are the guys that are doing it at the next level? Like, so who are the people that I've helped impact? It's not about me, but that I've impacted and continue doing the mission that I think is valuable. And if there's two people, I'm like, ooh, I didn't do it very well.
Gotcha.
So
cool. Well, and then shameless plug. I know that you're doing the City Collective thing, so if you want to give that a shout out as well as any other things you got going on.
Yeah. So when I moved here, I was the outsider. Like there's a lot of people that have lived in Evansville their whole life, and churches in our area. I would talk to people, and I don't think this is the case as much anymore, and they would be like, "Oh, you're at City Church," like, and they would like, it would be a weird like, "Oh, you're at City Church." I'm like, "Yeah, man, I moved here, work here."
Yeah.
But I just got weird. There's been a lot of church hurt in our city. Like, there's been a lot of splits. There's been a lot of moral failures. There's been a lot of like churches emphasizing the wrong thing or hurting people.
Sure.
And so I got here and I was like, man, like it just kind of grieves my heart to know that people that agree on the same thing, like if you went to a different church,
right,
that we can't be friends and that we can't see that we're on the same team. And I think that is the like, why would the enemy not take advantage of that? Like, why would he not be like, that seems easy enough, like let me cause division. And so with the help of two people on staff with me, like we decided like, hey, why don't we start trying to unite churches in our city? And so right now we've got like 6 churches we're working with. And one of the ways we do that is by writing songs together. And so we got together, we've released now two sets of songs. We get together and we write songs that we think will resonate in multiple churches, not just our own.
Right.
And so back in probably was May of last year, we sat down. There's a guy, Austin Turner. He's a church, Day Spring Community Church on the north side. He presented a song, and there were 3 other worship leaders from other churches all sitting around a circle, and we're like, that's a really good song. Yeah. And it was just an acoustic tune, and I was like, hey, what if we do this? And the other people were like, what if you change the melody? What if we do this? What if we rework this? And co-writing together, we kind of made this song our own and turned it from an acoustic song to what it is. And we just put it out March 10th, I think it was. And I think it's been a really cool song that transcends multiple. Like you can play it. We're playing acoustic this Sunday. Yeah, we've done it as a full band every other time. But the heart is not to just I think you hear about it, you're like, oh, you're just a person putting out music. It's like, no, like we want to unite people in our city to worship Jesus. And we've kind of resculpted the vision. My original vision was City Collective's vision is to see the city of Evansville worship Jesus in unity. And so no matter what church you're at, like church worship style, worship is not music, and worship is not a style. It's a position and a posture towards God. And so whatever your style or preference is, like we're trying to remove those and come together to remind ourselves, like, oh, there's a lot of people desiring the same thing we are, which is seeing God reach our community, our city. And so City Collective exists to do that, but one of the avenues is like, hey, we're going to write songs, because that opens doors with people, and people hear a song and they're like, oh, I like that, or that resonates with me, and then we've hooked them with, here's a song,
right? Come
hear about what we're doing. And kind of the goal long term is to build a network of worship pastors and leaders and production people, and then really just churches together. We're in the baby phase of it still, of getting them together to pray together, to bear burdens together, and help equip each other. Because like there's things that they do that I've learned a lot from. Like I never would have done it that way,
right?
And that might be a little tool I put in my tool belt that in different environments that really works. Yeah. So the goal is just to bring unity. I don't think that the kingdom's ever blessed by division.
Right.
And so.
Right. And they can find those songs, Apple Music,
yeah,
Spotify,
Apple Music, City Collective. You can find it anywhere music is sold. I don't have a QR code with me.
Yeah.
But you'd be also watching this on your phone, so how would you say
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, always a pleasure. If anyone's in Cincinnati for the Taylor Swift concert,
let's go.
We'll be there.
We'll be in the 100 section.
Yeah.
So,
Other than that, go Giants.
Yes, let's go.
See ya.
Later.